All right, everybody, welcome to episode 71 of the Scarlet Faithful podcast. Coming to you Monday night, much later than I wanted to. I was planning to stay up late Sunday night. It's a double header of a weekend, Mother's Day, of course, and then my daughter's birthday today on Monday. And, one thing led to another. And here we are Monday night. But getting it out in the nick of time, wanted to cover Cliff Omoruyi's performance at the G League Elite Camp on Saturday and Sunday, and kind of the aftermath of that. I have had time to read Rutgers fans' kind of reactions, takeaways. I've read a lot of analysis from NBA draft scouts, not scouts, analysts that do this like I do for Rutgers, right? They have their own NBA draft analysis websites, some pretty credible ones out there too, in terms of their feedback on Cliff and how they thought he performed at the G League Elite Camp. And overall, it was very positive. And after day one, Saturday, many tweeted, talked about, discussed that Cliff was going to be one of the seven, and it ended up being eight, but one of the players that earned an invite to the NBA Draft Combine, which started on Monday, today, week long. 8 players got selected end of night Sunday, and that's why I was waiting until late Sunday night to do this. And Cliff was not picked. So, statistics, just remember that this type of environment, the combine, you're judged on everything. Your measurables. Cliff graded super high in terms of physical tools, right? His wingspan is 7'6" That's almost unheard of. He graded out, and I can't remember where I saw it, but he was the third, had the third highest score for physical measurables, basically physical skills. Um, you know, there was a lot of feedback about his motor, about how he's constant on both ends of the floor, always moving, physically super athletic. I mean, he's off the charts athletically. Even for NBA scouts evaluating talent, Cliff is at the very top. I guess that's not off the charts. He's at the top, and that was on display this weekend, just in terms of him offensive rebounding and dunking. He was pretty good off the pick and roll. He had a pick and pop three on Sunday. It was his only basket in the game. He didn't make a huge impact on Sunday, which probably I don't think was a strike against him, but probably the reason he didn't get that invite to the combine is some other players had big days and kind of passed him by. But just remember that the combine and the camp, again, they practice all day. They get evaluated by scouts in a non-game environment. They play two games. He played two games over the weekend. He did have a very good game Saturday, 6 to 7 from the floor, 12 points, did a lot of different things, hit the three on Sunday, showed that he had some versatility. Someone was even tweeting that, in talking to Cliff, some of the feedback he's already gotten is that he needs to work on his ball handling and bringing the ball up the court. So the NBA is just a completely different animal. Just addressing some of the comments I've read, there's some sentiment out there. Well, first off, people assuming that Cliff is going to return to Rutgers because he didn't make the NBA draft combine, to me, is a dangerous thought process, because I don't think that's true at all. And I don't know anything. I'm just giving you my opinion in terms of, first of all, him not getting invited to the draft combine. That seemed to set off some kind of false celebrations by some on Twitter that, oh, he's not invited to the combine. He's coming back to Rutgers. Well, he was already invited to the G League Elite Camp. He wasn't going to get invited then to the combine. That's not how it works. If you get picked for the Elite Camp, then you didn't make the cut for the combine. But now you go to the Elite Camp for the G League and you have a chance. And he had a chance. A lot of people thought that he had a really good shot, and unfortunately, he fell short. I even got criticized. I wrote he narrowly missed the cut. And how do you know that? Well, if you look at all the feedback out there, Cliff was rated really high. There's 44 players at the G League Elite Camp. I looked at it. He's probably in the top 12 in terms of players that either made or got the invite for the combine or didn't make the cut. That being said, there was an interesting theory from the Box and One Twitter account, which is run by a coach, Anthony Spinella, well-respected high school coach for a really good prep school, and he was saying that he felt that someone like Cliff um, was not invited to come on potentially because he is much more of a known entity than some other players that ended up going. And Tosan from Princeton was one that did make the cut. And he's someone that isn't on the national radar as much as Cliff. Not saying that's why that Cliff still should have or could have gotten invited, but Cliff is a known entity. I agree with that. So the other thing to consider is that it's not just about getting drafted in the top 60 slots. Look at Ron Harper Jr. He got a two-way deal. He did not get drafted. He signed right after the NBA draft. He had multiple options. He picked the Raptors, a great organization, an organization that develops players, that has had more than one example. Fred VanVleet being kind of the top NBA example for a G League guy that goes on to a long NBA career. Ron had a really good year in the G League. He had some time in the NBA with the Raptors, and there's hope and thought that he's going to have a legit chance to make the roster for the Raptors next fall. So, Cliff, this is where I really feel that people are making a mistake by thinking he's definitely going to come back to Rutgers. Again, I don't know if this is going to happen. I'm not saying it will happen, but if he got some type of, or I would say, if there's enough G League interest out there from the NBA, meaning teams are saying to Cliff, "Hey, we will sign you. We will sign you to a two-way deal. You will play in the G League next year. You might get a cup of coffee with the NBA team, but we're going to invest in you in a year and give you a chance to develop at the G League." I think that that's an offer or option or proposal that he will have to seriously consider. First off, know about Cliff. He's an international student. He can't make NIL. The way the visa you know there's visa issues with international players. I don't know the details, but they can't make NIL money. He got some NIL deals last year. He had to donate it all. So that is a factor. Now Rutgers is going overseas this in August, and you can, as an international student, make NIL money overseas. So there is that potential at Rutgers in August to do that. However, going back to Rutgers does not mean he's going to be able to make NIL during the season. He can't. So a G League offer, again, not a bad starting spot. You can make money there. You're not going to get rich, but compared to maybe Cliff, he thinks about it. He's 21. He's still developing. And that's another myth that I wanted to kind of shoot down, was that the idea that, Cliff is better off going to Rutgers to develop than he would being going to the G League. I mean, let's look at it this way. First of all, the coaching staff playing for Peichel, yes, that would be beneficial for sure. Can he help Rutgers next year? Absolutely. Is he vital to Rutgers' success next year? He's a pretty big piece. But from Cliff's point of view, going in the G League, you're playing against all French NBA players, guys trying to make the league every single night. In college, you're not doing that. You're not going to be playing a higher level of competition in college than you would be in the G League. And I don't know why there's that misconception out there by some. And there is. There is that he needs to go to Rutgers and get better. Yes, he does. But whatever he does next year, it's unlikely he's going to get drafted. It's unlikely he'll play in the NBA, but he's got to get better wherever he goes. And that's part of what the NBA personnel are looking at, is that he's 21, but he's a young 21 in terms of his experience growing up. He didn't get started with basketball until later. Um, you know, that all goes into play. He's a freak athlete. He has crazy measurables. Uh, he's the type of flyer that they take a shot on and see if a year or two of investment, how much better can he get? Can he end up being a contributor at the NBA level? And I think that he's the type of player that, because of his physical gifts, his athleticism, his ability to defend, his willingness to work hard, his motor in going up and down the court, up and down the court, he has a lot of positives that yes, he's raw, but there's enough positives there that teams, could very much be willing to invest in him. And I think the two-way deal, getting signed as a free agent after the draft, I'm not saying that's an option for him, but it could. And if that's an option, I think that that's a serious threat for him coming back to Rutgers. Again, I don't know if he has that option, if he will have that option. We have until May 31st now, but I do believe he has options. Maybe who knows? Maybe multiple overseas professional leagues, professional teams are calling now, getting feedback. You don't think that those teams talk to the NBA and maybe personnel are saying, well, we really liked his upside. We're not sure what we're going to be able to do with him, this year. But if he had a year to develop with you overseas, he's right back on the table for next year. And then he's back. He's probably at the combine next year. So there's a lot of things that can happen here. So no, I don't think him not making the NBA combine means he's definitely coming back to Rutgers. Do I hope he comes back to Rutgers? Of course. Uh, do I think he could come back to Rutgers? Absolutely. But I don't think it's set in stone. I don't think he knows right now. I think tonight, Monday night, Cliff Omoruyi does not know if he's going back to Rutgers. So how do you know? And I've gotten asked what do you think he's going to do? I have no idea. I'm not going to sit here and blow smoke. All I know is that he has options. He's going to have options. Maybe they're not great options, or maybe the best option is to go back to Rutgers. Maybe he does want to earn a paycheck right away, wherever it is, and move up the professional ranks. You can't get inside his head. No one knows what Cliff Omoruyi wants to do other than Cliff Omoruyi and I hope that everybody just chill out a little bit, give him time. We got 2 weeks, 16 days until we know. Is Rutgers going to be the same team on paper with him, without him? If he doesn't return, no. Is the staff going to be kind of behind the curve in terms of having time to replace him? Yes, that's part of the deal. That's part of the process. Obviously, Rutgers on paper is in much better shape with Cliff than without. That being said, this is Steve Peichel we're talking about. This is the Brandon Knight we're talking about. TJ Thompson is proven very capable. These guys have plans. They have backup plans to backup plans. And while you're not going to be able to get a Cliff Omoruyi in certain respects, it could be an opportunity to kind of go in a different direction in terms of a skill set. Who knows? We don't know. And it's too early to get worked up and say, well, this is going to happen or that's going to happen. Or if this happens, that's going to, we just got to listen. And I said this in my Friday podcast, the enthusiasm for Rutgers basketball from the fan base in the middle of May. It's awesome. I love it. And I just think that, Cliff, the real waiting begins now. He's going to have options. We don't know what those options are going to be, but don't just discount the G League. The G League is a quality league, and players develop there all the time and get moved up to the NBA. It's less. Your percentages go down if you're not drafted, but it's much more common the last 2, 3, 4 seasons to see guys not get drafted and make an NBA roster and stick and become factors. Look at Jose Alvarado. So that's kind of my rant there. Have more on the Scarlet Faithful.com. Caleb McConnell got rave reviews for his defense this weekend. He was also at G League elite camp, and offensively struggled. And the thing is, teams are going to have to decide like how much are they going to give him a G League shot. He can defend multiple positions. His size is a huge upside. His defense and ability to defend multiple players is huge. How much can they live with his offense being a detriment? How much better can he get offensively a year of development in the G League? It's going to come down to that. Is there one team that's willing to give him a shot? I hope so. And I think there very well could be. So there was positive feedback on him as well. I wanted to mention that. And I might talk more about him later on. But Cliff is the priority simply because the impact he can have on the roster. Cliff has 2 years left. Of course, it's not going to stay 2 years probably, but 1 year for sure is a real possibility. So I hope he comes back. I don't know what he's going to do. I'm not going to blow smoke. People say, oh, he's going to do this. Remember the report a few weeks ago? He's leaning towards going overseas. That made no sense to me. You have to use logic when you read certain things. Are people pushing certain agendas for certain reasons? I don't know. I can't say that. All I can say is for him to think that he was going overseas 3 weeks ago before he went through the evaluation process made no sense to me. Remember, Cliff has also had a few workouts before the G League camp. Boston Celtics, Brooklyn Nets. This was reported by Adam Zagoria. So teams are obviously interested in him. It's willing. How willing are they to fully invest in him now? And what is the feedback from them? Are they telling him to go? You'll be best. You'll benefit the most if you go back to college. Or will you benefit the most if you go overseas? Or you'll benefit the most if you come to the G League? He's going to go a lot off that feedback too. So we don't know what it is. I do think more positive than not. I think that he is a desirable option and certainly going to be considered very heavily before the May 31st deadline. And obviously, he's going to have to make a decision before then to withdraw and maintain his eligibility. So keep your fingers crossed. I know I will. Take a breath. We'll get through this together. We're going to evaluate this process, or as things come out, we will discuss. I really appreciate everybody who tuned in to the daily podcast last week. Sorry for the late start tonight. Family first. Rutgers takes second, and it's going to be a fun week. And I'll be back tomorrow, Tuesday. Probably not first thing in the morning. I'll let this marinate a little bit, and then I'll be back sometime Tuesday, and then work on getting back into the AM. But follow me on YouTube. Uh, Obviously, the scarletfaithful.com, Twitter, and anywhere you listen to podcasts. Thanks so much. Talk to you tomorrow.